Welcome back to the Navy Sports Magazine. Time to put the focus on women's basketball with assistant coach Katie Rokus. And, you're a local product. You had a terrific career at St. John's. I've had the opportunity to referee over there multiple times. They don't lose many games over there. Your career, 107 and 21 while you were at St. John's. Let's start there. Why is that product so successful? What did it do for you to start what has become a career in basketball for you?
Yeah, that's actually cool to hear those stats. I haven't heard those in a while. That certainly was kind of the foundation, the start of where basketball went for me. Definitely that success in playing with such good players, in the DC metropolitan area, and having the success that we did certainly helped my confidence going into college and increased just captured the love that I already had for and passion for the game, solidified it there. And it was fun actually to be a part of the start of that because they've been really successful since,
Right.
but our teams were the first to kind of get that going, and there's a lot of pride in that. But certainly going into college from there, I felt just a lot of confidence in my background coming from St. John's.
Obviously, having stints at UMBC, GW, here, of course, after Cincinnati,
Hmm.
you know, as as you move around as an assistant coach, what is the assistant coach looking for when they're looking at a job?
Yeah.
Because I mean, there's so many teams that play this game, but not every job is the same.
No, I would argue that almost every job is different. For me personally, I was always just looking for an opportunity to learn more and grow, but also a place where I could add value from the
Hmm.
experiences that I had. So if I was able to do both of those things wherever I was, then I felt like it was a success and the right place for me at the right time.
As a successful player, do you feel it does give you some value? And I don't know if credibility is necessarily the word, because I think there have been a lot of good coaches who weren't necessarily the greatest players even out there. But does that give you an insight sometimes when you're talking to a player, especially individually, maybe a one-on-one conversation with a player and say, hey, I was a guard. I did these types of things. Does that help when you're trying to make a connection with an athlete?
I think it helps, but I would have to argue that I certainly wasn't that great player who gives that advice, and more of the one who's coached really great players
Hmm.
and able to give that advice from that standpoint too. But certainly being in their shoes and saying I've been what you've been through adds credibility. They don't always know how successful you were. I mean, they may look up the stats, probably not as well as you, but as long as you're able to give them advice and help them and they see success and they see it works, that's where the credibility is really earned.
You were part of a really good staff with Mike Bozeman over at GW and this area. Now that your third stint with a local school, what is it about girls basketball around here, especially that WCAC?
Yeah.
What is it right now where it? I'm not sure the women's basketball around here has been any better than it is right now.
Yeah, it's a good question. It's hard to explain why this area is such a hotbed for just talent and competition. And it's not just basketball; it's in every sport that it's so competitive. I think good competition, good players just breed more good competition and more good players. So I don't know what the reason is for why this area is so solid in sports, but I'm just grateful that it is.
Obviously, when you were considering here, you look at Stephanie Pemper's record; it speaks for itself. When you have a chance to join a coach who's had that type of success, you know, thoughts on making the leap to come here, because obviously you're recruiting a very select
Yeah.
type of student athlete that comes to the academy.
Yeah, I mean, certainly the opportunity to learn from a coach of Steph's caliber and just the success that she's had, and uh, more importantly, her ability to maintain what she's done, because a lot of coaches have that success for a couple of years, but just how she's been able to establish programs, and I know this term's so overused, but just really the culture of a program, that was so attractive to me, and it's been really cool to be a part of it for the last 2 years, and I feel like I've learned a lot. So when that opportunity presented itself, that was I was really excited about it.
Now that you've been on the inside, what is it about the culture? Because obviously, this is a program that has stayed successful, which is hard. It's
Mhm.
easy to win 1 year, maybe even 2 years. You get a good player, good group of seniors, or
Mhm.
whatever. But to maintain success, what to see this type of success maintain, what have been the keys, obviously, that you've noticed from the inside?
I think the biggest thing is to really teach them how to uh, figure it out for themselves. That's been the biggest difference here compared to other places that I've been, is their ability to problem solve, and her ability to let them problem solve. And as coaches, a lot of times we want to give them the answers,
Sure,
and kind of spoon feed them sometimes. And it's just her ability to put them in situations where they're constantly tested and having to figure it out, is really, really cool. And I think that's a huge piece to why she's been successful and the teams here have been successful.
When you go out on the road and you recruit, it would appear to me, and I talked to Hannah Fensky about this last week, this seems like a fun style to want to play in if you are a player. Now, as I say that, I will say I think the thing that gets probably overlooked the most here with you all is how good your defense is and how well you all strap it on defensively each and every night. But it seems like a very fun style and a fun culture to be a part of. A fair observation?
Very fair, more than fair. It certainly is an opportunity for the players to have creativity. And again, we have structure, but we let them try to create and within certain parameters. And we've found the right people to be able to do that. And I think when you can shoot the three well, that also opens a lot of things for you, a lot of room for creativity. And that defense that you just talked about certainly gives us confidence on the offensive end. So that the two married together is just a really fun way to play.
I was going to say, is it hard to get players? You can get a couple of individual players maybe to buy in, but is it hard to get an entire roster sometimes to buy into defensive culture? But obviously here it's produced winning.
It's a hard question to ask if it's hard or not. Certainly it is. But again, as I said earlier, when they see it works and they're having success, they want to repeat that success. So because they've had success with the defensive intensity and kind of grit, I think it kind of keeps going, and we haven't had the struggles to convince them to have to play because they see it works.
You knew what you had in your seniors, especially in the backcourt with Taylor and Hannah coming in, but the fact that Laurel and Kayla have really taken that next step of development this year, how big has that been toward the overall team success that you all have enjoyed?
Well, certainly huge. You can't just have two players do it all for you. I don't think any successful team can rely solely on two players. So our team does a nice job. Our depth in general, I mean, we have a lot of players that can come in and contribute on any given night, that know exactly what we're trying to do and are able to execute that. But the three that you mentioned have been really consistent and just have such great chemistry with the other two that you mentioned.
Obviously, doing the things right physically is a huge part of this game, but as part of the growth of the young women Steph talks about all the time, you have a chance to kind of get with them on some mental stuff and try to help them with the mental preparation. How important is that to the overall player development and the growth of the person individually, not just the player?
Yeah, no doubt. It's a huge piece. I mean, I think you see that trend a lot in athletics now. Everybody's training the skills and training the physical piece. That's ingrained in them from when they start playing basketball. But really elite athletes are successful mentally. I mean, you look at the Olympians now, and those people don't get there without mental toughness and mental training. And that's something that Steph is very passionate about, and an area that I've had the opportunity to spend a lot of time with our players. And we try to make sure that it's something that they can also take with them when they're doing other things here on the yard, not just specific to basketball. Definitely try to shape it and gear more towards basketball, but it resonates when they can make the connection to real life and how it can help them in other areas.
Shocker, here we are, late February. You guys in Bucknell knocking heads again with an opportunity to contend for a championship. Thoughts on what you all have to do this time around to get a victory against the Bison here in this final week of the regular season?
We have to play a solid game on both ends for 40 minutes. I think the last 5 games I've been a part of with them have all been really close games and have been decided by a few points, a few possessions. And Bucknell has made a few more plays to get those wins. And I think that if we can keep matching them offensively and defensively and come up with a few bigger plays, that's the difference, really.
Appreciate the time. Thank you so much, and good luck this week.
Thanks so much.
All right, Katie Rokus joining us. Mids home Wednesday night against Bucknell, on the road Saturday at Loyola, and then a big one with American next Wednesday night to conclude the regular season. All the action available on the Patriot League Network.